So the next segment that we're going to talk about is klisters and a couple of quick rules that will really simplify and dumb it down as to how we want to work this. Any given day that I'm using a klister, I'm starting out with our spray-based klister. Comes in two sizes. This is the larger size, so if you're a coach, this is the size you want to be purchasing. You can get a lot of skis out of this. There is a smaller size for a recreational user, but this is definitely the size that I like to operate with. As you saw in the earlier video, how simple it was to apply this base klister. Typically I'll have the athletes tape off their kick zone, save the coach a step, and then you simply go apply your base klister, which you already saw, and we're ready to go. So this ski, the athlete or the coach had taped off the kick zone. The binder spray klister has been applied. It's now cooled, and we're ready to go. Again, having your tube klisters warm, it's imperative to have that. It'll save you a ton of headache in terms of working these tubes. You can keep them in an automobile. You can keep them close to your chest, in your pockets. Wherever they can stay warm, it'll make the working of the klisters much more effective and less headache. We've got this cold spray green binder klister applied to the ski. If it were a blue klister day, cold, icy conditions without much new snow, we would then just apply the ice klister, the KR30, right over this klister. And we're going to actually apply those here shortly. But I want to talk about a couple of fundamental rules that'll save coaches and athletes a huge step. So if it's cold and we're going to race on the 30 ice klister, that can go directly on the spray binder klister. So it's simply here and here. And in the Northeast, we had a lot of those conditions last year. Sometimes there was a dusting of new snow, and we did an overlay of kick wax, something we'll talk about later. But you can just simply apply this directly over the spray klister if need be, and that's a highly effective race solution right there. The rule that I wanted to share with everybody today is if you have a longer distance race where you need to have this binder klister, but say it's a KR60 klister day, so it's warming conditions, wetter conditions, but we want to have the longevity of that klister not coming and working off the ski or being abraded off the ski because of it's a long race. What we'll do is we use what's called a bridging klister, and the bridging klister is the KR35, the Violet Special. That's been most effective for us here in the States. So it's really important to understand, rather than going all over the map and testing when time is of the essence and you just have too many skis to do. Just understand these simple rules, that if it's an ice klister day, you can simply apply the ice klister directly over the spray binder. And then if you've got warming conditions, you need what's called a bridging klister. The bridging klister, which is the KR35, that's going to prevent these red klisters from working their way off the ski outside of the kick zone. So just remember those simple rules. Okay, so again, when working with klisters, we've got our spray binder klister already applied to the ski. In this scenario, we're gonna say that we've got warming conditions, so wetter, maybe some corn snow, spring conditions. So we're gonna incorporate using that bridging klister. At the same time we're doing that, just understand that the way I apply the 30 or the 35 or the 70, it's the same way, it's just in layers, and just understand that. The key, as I mentioned earlier, is you want to keep those tubes of klister warm, especially as we get into the KR30 in colder days. You want to keep that tube warm. It's going to be extremely helpful. Again, heat can often help with applying these klisters. Oftentimes, someone will have, some coaches will have an iron or a heat gun with one of the hand irons. That's great if you have access to power. If you don't have access to power, you can go to the hardware store and get a propane torch and use this as your heating element and heat the iron. And if you don't have access to heat, it's also okay to use your bare hand typically to warm that and control the klister and spread it even. Oftentimes people aren't comfortable or shy away from using their hands on that. If you've got some of the hand cleaner, that's a great way. It's an all-natural product and it's highly effective at taking the klister off. So after you've done your athlete skis, just use some of this before you go put your hand back in your glove or your pockets, and everything just comes right off. So it's super easy and something I make sure I've got. So this next step, we're actually going to apply the klister, and I want you folks to see this up close. You can see the glossy finish in my kick zone after we applied the base klister spray and then let it properly cool. There's no dry spots. Again, having good lighting is an invaluable asset to applying these klisters and having it bind. And we're going to assume that we're using a corn snow, an aqua klister. Really, maybe we had some corn snow and maybe a little drizzle, and the tracks are soft, and we're going to be using a KR70 as our race klister. But as we mentioned earlier, we need to have that bridging klister before we go straight to a 60 or a 70. And that KR35 is the product that we use. It doesn't matter where we go with this. If this could also just be a cold day and pretend that this is the KR30. The way I apply these next tube klisters are all the same. So again, I'm keeping I'm cognizant to keep the tube of klister warm, and that's going to help me out quite a bit. And I simply, again, for me, it works if I use a chevron pattern. I'm putting a little bit of pressure on that klister tube, spacing out the application equidistant, trying to keep it as clear from the center groove as possible, and not using too much, but not using too little. And you know, the best way to work this is just keep trying it out. And you're just skiing on it and getting a feel. Once you do it a few times, you'll be very comfortable doing so, and you'll get it all down. So as you can see, there's a chevron pattern on either side of the center groove. Not too thick and not too thin. You want it to bind there. And again, you could use an iron, you could use a heat gun, you could use a torch, or you can use your hand or your thumb. So let's say I have no access to anything, and I simply take my thumb down there, and when I hit that pattern, I just try and put a little pressure on there. And again, I'm just avoiding buildup and bumps and trying to go as smooth as possible. Making sure that I'm covering that binder spray. And again, not having any high spots. And again, having ample lighting or adequate lighting, you can see where you need to hit. But getting good coverage is the key. And then we'd want to, again, set this ski out to cool before we put on our next layer of KR70. So we finished up and we left off where we put our spray binder klister on. We knew we were going to be racing on the KR70 or KR60, and we needed a bridging klister. So we just finished up applying the KR35 binder klister, and then we let that ski cool in the shade outside and allowed that to set up a little bit more. And again, our final layer is going to be 70, and again, it's that same pattern. having adequate lighting, and seeing what we're doing. Keeping that tube of Klister warm is going to be beneficial to you when applying, especially as you go to those colder race days. And people shy away on Klister. Just get your hands in it, have some hand cleaner, and really don't worry about it. And again, a nice smooth finish, no high spots. Spreading that out nice and smooth. And again, it's imperative that we let that ski cool as best we can. Again, as you're getting into those warmer days, it's going to take a little bit longer for that ski to cool. We want to avoid putting that ski directly on snow, especially after it's been warm. If we're working inside, it can ice up immediately. Again, out of the sun, in the shade, as cool as possible, but let that ski cool for about 10 or 15 minutes before we get on there. But yeah, you're ready to go. Just simply take off your tape, and if you feel when you go out and test, if you feel there's a little bit of drag up front, you can simply take off 1 centimeter or 2 centimeters off, depending on what that athlete's feeling, and make some adjustments from there. But that's it, Klister application.